Welcome back to the shop. Yeah, it's been a week. It's been a very busy week for me. Didn't get quite as far as I'd like to, but still really great progress on the Falcon. And the hatch has been made. Obviously not painted, however, it's complete. Now, from the progress photographs that I'll insert here, I'll sort of give you a timeline of things. It's pretty straightforward, where you take a cardboard cutout and you trace the front and the aft and transfer that to a piece of balsa. But in my case, I just went ahead and directly traced onto the balsa, knowing that I was going to be trimming a little bit as well. So let me get this hatch off and I'll show you further what's going on here. All right, so with the hatch off, this is the orientation. Yeah, so with the fore and the aft formers, this is the one that was originally in the fuselage. I just decided to go ahead and use it, especially because it made it up perfectly with this spot here. Not a huge deal. So with that, pinning them in place, I used T-pins to pin them in place where I needed them to be once they were trimmed, accounting for the thickness of the skin that I was planning to use. The point is to build up a rigid structure, so I did that first by adding a top basswood, hard basswood spar, and then I use these two side pieces, and these lay directly on this edge and that edge. So it just rests right on top. There's no play or anything like that. And then I use these stringers, just balsa. It's scrap that I had. I didn't have any square, but this is fine. And this is really just a means to help secure the skin once you glue it down. So when you go to skin this, I use the Windex solution, just a window cleaner. Spray it on the side you want to be the outside curve, It expands the wood and makes it curl over. And so you can see a slight seam here where I did one half and then the other. Just draw a line down the middle, had a whole bunch of overage, and you curl it over. And so I glued just the top edge, and then with it sticking straight out and kind of curving over, I added glue to this middle former, right? And then bent it over using a rolling motion, like on my bench top, using a rolling motion. And then I did the same thing for this point. And then once I had those done, I added the glue to these joints from the inside. And that's how I was able to secure everything. It's a really simple structure to do that way, not terribly difficult. Knocked it out in an afternoon. And then it's just a matter of sand, sand, sand. And what I mean by that is you sand it down to prep it, and then you apply the fiberglass, and you do the sanding sealer and the micro balloons, and then you sand, and then you sand, and then you prime, and then you sand again. That's what you see here. Lots of sanding involved, and it's super, super smooth. In some angles, you can actually see a bit of a mild reflection, but it's super smooth, ready for paint. It's going to be great. It's going to be as good, if not better, than the smoothness of this fiberglass piece right here. So we're good. So moving forward with that, yeah, the next step was probably the most difficult part of this whole repair. It's the Cabane struts. The Cabane struts, so looking at the plans, there is a little bit of incidence in the wing. And again, the incidence in the wing is the angle of attack in relation to the datum of the fuselage. So the datum indicates like how the airplane flies, right? Straight through the air. And then the angle of the wing can be positive or negative, right? So there is a certain amount of incidence indicated on the plans, and I want to make sure I get that right. So how do you do that? A lot of the time you just build a jig. I don't have that luxury because usually a jig is built when there's no wheels on it and like you have a whole build surface and stuff. Like I just don't have the room to do that here. So I have a thought and it's going to be close and I can do the whole verify thing. So let me get the struts to show you and then we'll get into the strategy around it. All right, so these are the struts. You can see that there are long ones and short ones, okay? And this is based off of the luck of the draw, actually. When I was making these, I noticed that there were some clean breaks, and I remembered that there were a couple of struts that broke clean off right at the fuselage. The issue is because it broke and the plans don't indicate how long the strut is, like from base to tip or even fuselage to tip. It just does not have that length marked anywhere. There's no front profile for me to measure off of, anything like that. So that's the conundrum we're in. So these are K&S metals and streamlined aluminum, and inside I have some 3D printed ABS that has been epoxied in place, and I drilled holes through at the bottom. Let's see, I did 100 millimeters, so 10 centimeters all the way up. So it goes all the way up to like here. It goes all the way to the edge and past just a bit of this portion in the fuselage. So if it's going to break off, it's going to break clean off outside of the fuselage. That was the intent. And then I've got the same ends that I had on the interplane struts, just printed 4 more and did the same treatment here. So that's what we're talking about. These are just basic struts. I sanded them down. I'll wipe them again with some rubbing alcohol to prime them before paint, but I want to make sure that I get them mounted first. So strategy. If you remember, this airplane has a whole bunch of flying wires. I did an episode on this, what flying wires are and what landing wires are. So it's actually kind of cool, really educational. Highly recommend you go back and watch that video. So with all of these wires that are actually pretty strong and functional, what I'm planning to do is assemble the airplane. I'm going to assemble the airplane with those flying wires to help pull that top wing more or less into the position where it needs to be. From there, what I can do is try to set the fuselage on its datum, on its level. And I can do that using this portion here. I can leave this hatch off and I'll use this as a datum. I've got a bubble level that I can set. With that bubble level set, I can then try to look at the incidence with my incidence meter on the top wing and see if it's where it needs to be. If not, I can try to adjust things and try to push things into place where they need to be. Essentially what I need to do is dry fit everything and then put the struts on, because you can kind of friction fit the holes of the strut. You can friction fit these holes onto the struts or the little protrusions in the top wing, and then mark holes in the fuselage plates where they need to be drilled. And then I can drill them, put a screw or 2, I have to put in 2, and then I can verify that the incidence is still more or less correct. It's the best I can do. It's probably the simplest solution, maybe not the most accurate, but it will get me probably at least, if not closer to the proper mounting incidence than building a jig based off of a whole bunch of other complications and frankly not appropriate space to do it. I'd have to do this on the floor and I've got nowhere to pin things and things could move. So yeah, I'm making the best of the situation here. Lemonade out of lemons, right? So I'm going to put you on a time lapse and show you what's involved, because I don't think I've ever filmed this, what's involved in getting this airplane set up. I'm going to do it in kind of a dark corner. I'll do the best I can with lighting, but keep in mind this airplane is absolutely massive to set up inside. All right, bear with the basement noise. We got a problem. Let me explain what we got going on here. Pardon the light. Overexposure backlighting is awful. Okay, so we're gonna go over here to this wing panel, and I'll show you what's going on. Okay, so we are not in need of medication. What we have is an issue of geometry. So let's talk geometry. So when I made these interplane struts, see, plane, plane, and a plane, interplane struts, I made them directly off the plans. I noticed that they were ever so slightly different than the stock ones. So this is the stock one. Well, I say stock. Should say the original one. This is an original one that I pieced back together with some CA glue. This will never hold again. I will never trust it again. But I use this to demonstrate a point. So there and up there. Oh yeah, it's a little bit too long. And yeah, same with the back. It's a little too long. And per the plans, yeah, somebody didn't build per the plans. I have issues with that. Sorry, the inner scientist is coming out. Always follow the plans. I mean, the airplane flew. I didn't know it wasn't built per the plans. So, I mean, anyway. So, makes me wonder what else isn't built to plans. So essentially what I've got to do now is adjust all of all this work to put it together is not for nothing, but I have to go and adjust each one of these. So to the point, like, okay, so there's a mechanical solder joint here and here. And essentially what I have to do is once I get the wing fixed into position, I have to readjust all of these. Yay, more work. And it's going to be fun. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the tail propped up, and that way I can set my datum line. Again, this line is parallel to the datum for the airplane, so I can just use that line to make sure that it's level. And from there, I can put my incidence meter on the wing, and from there, I can try to get the struts screwed into position. Sometimes when you fix something right, it's worth fixing right. In this situation, I'm having second thoughts. I'm having second thoughts that maybe I should go back and just remake struts that are exactly the same length as the old struts. But then again, I don't know if the incidence was made correctly in the first place. I think it would be, but I don't know. I don't have a way to verify that. So, what I'm also going to do is check the incidence on the bottom wing, because that doesn't change. That's fixed by the wing root. So since I have that, I can at least verify that the bottom wing is at 0, and go from there. So let's do that, and I'll come back. I am an idiot. let me just give you the situation here. So this is the plan that I was working off to create the struts. You know what? Let me go get the strut real quick, and I'll just verify to you that the original ones were not built correctly. With this, we're gonna situate these right about there. So yeah, wrong angle and too long. So now up here, they sort of work. So if I kept there, I can easily squeeze that a little bit. And that's frankly how I had to install them anyway. So these were just built wrong. Now, this doesn't change the fact that I'm still a moron. So yeah, I've been over these plans multiple times looking at these struts. And I had before opened this up and like, oh yeah, this is a plan for the cowl. Like if you're going to make a cowl from scratch rather than a fiberglass one, or even you're going to make a plug, this is going to be your plan for making the cowl, right? Okay, so we've got the cowl front and we've got the cowl side. It never dawned on me that this is a front view. I'm a moron. Let me open up the plan all the way. So we have here, well, what do you know? A plan for the front part, and it even shows me you take it down to the end of the block of wood. I'm a moron. Sometimes these things just get overlooked. This isn't my project originally, okay? I don't know everything about it. It's a friggin' huge plane. So, what I need to do is I need to go through the plans and carefully examine them and make sure that that the lengths are correct. Okay, so aluminum bracket, front strut only, make from, read those kinds of things. So bottom wing section does not have any specifications for incidence. However, up here, note, top wing is set at 1 degree negative incidence. This raises the swept back section by 1/16 of an inch. Okay, so if I build this correctly, I should have the 1 degree of negative incidence. Now, the model setup as it is when I have the datum level, it's pretty close to 0. It's not exactly, but the scientist in me is fighting me. A lot of modelers would say, oh, that's okay, that's fine, that's, you know, give or take, fudge factor, you know, TLAR method. That looks about right. That's what that acronym stands for. So the inner scientist in me is like, it's a constant tug of war. So I'm actually going to leave you guys here. I'm going to leave you on a little bit of a cliffhanger, but suffice to say, I'm a moron. So I am going to take these struts, I'm going to figure out the plans, and when I come back to you guys next time, I'm going to have an assembled airplane. May not have all of those guy wires right, but I'm going to do this the right way. I'm going to make sure that the lengths are correct and have everything done per the plans because I trust the plans. I also trust how it was originally built because I flew it and I mean, technically the second time was flying, just didn't have a wheel when it came down. So, that being said, if you guys haven't gone over to the Dubro channel and had a look at our winter build, I'm building a really cool model from Old School Model Works. And it's a really fun project. We're doing some live streams and it's a really good time. Get some free stuff we're giving away too. So tune in there and always go to dubro.com. Use my code Josh10 for 10% off of your purchase at BuddyRC or dubro.com. It's just, again, I don't get anything from that code. I'm able to pass that on to you guys. Thank you so much for watching the channel. Thank you for following along my mistakes. And I want to be transparent about it, but I love this model. I'm going to get it right. And when you come back, it's going to be right. I'm going to keep on working on this flying work of art.